The NFL season's over and the NBA's in full swing, but watching my 76ers struggle to score points just doesn't hit quite as hard as watching my Eagles win the Super Bowl, which had me wishing that the players on the NBA team played a little more like the players on the NFL team. And that gave me the idea, what if NFL players played for their city's NBA team? So buckle in, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy this video, and let's get right into it. Today we'll be covering all the teams from the Eastern Conference, and I will be releasing a part 2 next week covering the Western Conference teams. Before we get into these starting 5 lineups, you have to understand that translating an NFL player to an NBA player is definitely a tough thing to do. It's not quite as simple as just saying, oh, this guy plays in the NFL, so he must be athletic enough to play in the NBA. So you'll find with most of these lineups that everything's kind of scaled down a little bit. I like using shorter players for the guards, medium-sized players for the forwards, and usually I'll grab a big guy from one of the trenches to fill in the center spot. The first team we're taking a look at is the New York Knicks. In case you haven't heard, there are 2 NFL teams and NBA teams in New York City, because yes, Brooklyn is in the area of New York City. So what I did was I assigned the Giants with the Knicks and the Jets with the Nets, because Jets Nets, it just makes too much sense. So the first player for the starting lineup of the New York Knicks is a point guard, and I'm going with Tyrone Tracy. As you'll see, Tyrone Tracy is one of the few running backs that I actually have in these lineups, and that's mostly because I just don't really look at a running back and feel like that style of build would work in the NBA. But Tyrone Tracy is small, he's quick, and he could make a very good hypothetical point guard. For the shooting guard, we can't leave out the talents of Malik Neighbors, so let's put him in that spot. For small forward, I'm actually going with Drew Lock. I know he sucks at being a QB, but I'm just looking at him and I feel like he could pull off an Austin Reeves type performance. We have Kayvon Thibodeau at power forward. Obviously, Kayvon Thibodeau is a little big for this position as far as weight goes, but if he trims a couple pounds, he could go crazy at this. And then we have the massive Brian Burns taking the center position beneath the basket. The next team is the Boston Celtics, and the team representing the Boston Celtics is the New England Patriots. Now, we all know that there aren't a whole ton of really good players on the Patriots, but I did what I could. I'm putting Kendrick Bourne at the point guard spot. He just looks like he could play that position. Side note, I didn't really do a whole lot of research into these guys' basketball history, and that's mostly because they're professional athletes, and at some point in their high school or college career, of course, they picked up a basketball and played it. We'll take Christian Gonzalez as the shooting guard, Drake May as the small forward. He's got good size, and just look at him. He looks like he wants to play that position. Hunter Henry's a little bigger than Drake May, so we'll put him at power forward. And then at center, we'll do DeMontre Jacobs, who, much like Brian Burns, is just a monolith of a human being, and we just put him at the center position. He's gonna be good. Throughout this video, we will be comparing these lineups to see who would win in a hypothetical match, until we have just one team to represent the Eastern Conference. For this matchup, I do like the New York Knicks. I just feel like they have the edge at pretty much every single position, except for maybe small forward. Next up, let's head over to Philadelphia and check out the 76ers starting lineup. At point guard, we have to go with my boy, my vanilla cream smoothie, my Mahomes pick sixer, Cooper DeJean. Now, Cooper DeJean, I do know played basketball in high school, and he can dunk. He's small and elusive. I feel like he would play the point guard position perfectly. There's so many good players on the Eagles, but give me Devontae Smith as shooting guard. Pair him with AJ Brown at small forward. I think the 3 right here could be a very deadly tandem. There's so many big people on the offensive and defensive lines, but I'm going to take Dallas Goedert at power forward because he is like almost 6'5", 6'6", and he's already almost got the physique to play basketball already. But for center, we're gonna have to go with like 7'6", whatever, Jordan Mailata. Next up are the Brooklyn Nets, the other New York City area team, and the Nets will be represented by the New York Jets. For point guard, we'll take musty mustache Garrett Wilson. I feel like he has the right size, and he could be like a Kyrie Irving type of guy on the court. I'm sure Devontae Adams won't be on the Jets for much longer, but until he's off, he's gonna be the shooting guard for the Nets. I really like Sauce Gardner at small forward. I feel like he could be sneaky good at that. I'm taking Tyler Conklin at power forward, not because I'm a huge fan of it, but just because I don't really want to take too many offensive or defensive linemen. But at the center position, I do need to take a lineman, and I will be taking Jermaine Johnson. Who would win in this hypothetical matchup? Even with my bias aside, I do think that the 76ers will take this round. Next up, we'll head over to Canada, where the Toronto Raptors will embrace the Buffalo Bills. A little bit of cross-cultural, cross-country mashup going on here. Heck, they're just across the falls from each other. I think it works. Give me Khalil Shakir at the point guard position. Khalil Shakir really broke out as the #1 receiver for Josh Allen, if you don't include Amari Cooper, and I just feel like this guy could do really good on the court. He's small. I feel like he'd have good handles, and this might be a hot take, but give me Rasul Douglas as shooting guard. I know he's a little on the older side, and there's probably other players that could definitely play the position just as well, but I just like his size. For small forward, give me Keon Coleman. Another receiver, but he's definitely a lot taller than the first 2 guys, and I feel feel like this guy could go really good on the basketball court. Of course, it wouldn't be a Buffalo Bills / Toronto Raptors team without Josh Allen. I'm sure that on this team, he will be the heartbeat and soul of this team. And for my center, I'm going to go with Greg Rousseau. He's got good size, perfect for guarding the basket. Heading down to the great franchise of the Washington Wizards. Believe it or not, but Terry McLaurin is actually not that tall. I thought he was a lot taller than he actually is. So I'm going to put him at point guard. Once again, I kind of looked at Luke McCaffrey, saw an Austin Reeves kind of player, and I was like, yeah, send it. Let's put him at shooting guard. I know that Jaden Daniels is a little thin, even for a basketball player, but if he were to work out a little bit, maybe tone those muscles, I feel like he could play a pretty good small forward. And while Zach Ertz is a little bit on the older side, I feel like power forward is kind of a good spot for him. And for the center, we'll take Washington Commanders guard Sam Cosmi. This matchup is a lot closer. I like 1 through 3 for Washington a lot better than Toronto's 1 through 3, but I do really like having Josh Allen at the power forward position instead of Zach Ertz. I will be going with the Washington Wizards just because I feel like the combination of Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, and Jaden Daniels, the three of those will be passing the ball back and forth. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Rasul Douglas, they won't be able to keep up. Next up is the Orlando Magic. And I know what you're thinking, Orlando, they don't have an NFL team. I was really torn between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to represent the Orlando Magic team. Eventually, I went with the Bucks. I think they're farther away from Orlando than Jacksonville is. But at the end of the day, I just think the Bucks have better players than the Jacksonville Jaguars do. So for point guard, give me Baker Mayfield. Not only does it make sense from a position standpoint in the fact that as a quarterback, Baker Mayfield's distributing the ball, and as a point guard, that's the same role that Baker Mayfield will have to play. But he's also got about the right size, and he's really tough, which is what you need in a point guard. Shooting guard, give me Chris Godwin. Small forward, give me Zion McCollum. Just look at him. He looks like one of the Ball brothers. For power forward, this is the strongest pick on the team, Mike Evans. This guy's like 6'5" or something, and he just has that LeBron James look to him. For the center position, we'll go with Logan Hall. I have no idea why he is staring at me like he wants to touch me inappropriately, but okay. This is where things get interesting. The next team we're going to be looking at is the Miami Heat. For point guard, Tyreek Hill makes too much sense. That's actually a really scary thought. Can you imagine Tyreek Hill with the ball dribbling and he's like going through people's legs because he's so small and agile? Heck, as long as he averages more points a game than he has kids, I think he'll be fine. For shooting guard, even though Jalen Ramsey is a little on the older side, I just like him at this position. He looks like he knows ball that way. Small forward, give me Jonnu Smith. He's got that physique. Zach Seiler, I didn't really know who this guy was. I'm pretty sure he's a defensive tackle. He just looks like a power forward. He looks like if he loses like maybe 30 pounds or something, get himself into running shape, he could be pretty good. And for the center position, we've dug up the corpse of Calais Campbell. I know you haven't heard that name in a long time, but here he is in the flesh. This guy's been in the league for like 70 years and he still found a way to sign a contract. Again, this is another close matchup, but for me, the selling point is that I just think Mike Evans together with Baker Mayfield at point guard, I just think they're going to go ham. I just think that it's going to be a similar thing to what you see on the football field. Honestly, they're just going to cook. So I have Orlando Magic winning this round. Next up are the Atlanta Hawks. And for the Hawks, of course, we have the Falcons. Once again, I very sparingly use the running back position, but in this case with Bijan Robinson, I feel like I have to make an exception. He's just so fast and elusive. I feel like put the ball in his hands and he'll be able to wiggle his way up to the basket and score some layups. For shooting guard, give me Michael, and I got to be careful here, Penix Jr. For small forward, I'm going with Drake London, who as I was looking up his picture, I did find out that he played the guard position while he was in college at USC. For power forward, we're going with Kyle Pitts, and at the center position, we have Caleb McGarry. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but bro looks like he pours whiskey and ale into his Lucky Charms every morning for breakfast instead of milk. Next up are the Charlotte Hornets, who are of course represented by the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young is only 5'10". When I found that out, I was like, what the heck? Bro's shorter than me and he's an NFL quarterback. Either way, he has to be the point guard. That just makes too much sense. Adam Thielen is another player that's just a little on the older side, but he looks, once again, like he could pull out some Austin Reeves type moves on the court. As small forward, give me the guy who doesn't know how to speak English. Power forward, give me Clowney, another guy that's been in the basement for a long time. And for the center position, I didn't really know who to pick, but Robert Hunt was like the tallest guy on the team, so I'm putting him there. I think what really helps the Atlanta Hawks case is that Drake London actually played in college. He played at enough of a high level in which his picture was on the ESPN website. I just think the Hawks take it in this one. I think they do. Before we keep going, if you're a fan of any of these teams, tell me who you think should be their starting lineup, and we'll compare, see who I got wrong. Next up are the Milwaukee Bucks, who of course are represented by the Green Bay Packers. At point guard, give me receiver Jaden Reed. Shooting guard, we're gonna have to go with Xavier McKinney. Small forward, I really like Christian Watson. He's like 6'4", 6'5", which is actually pretty tall for receiver and a little short for small forward, but it works. For power forward, I'm going to go with the Mac and Crack guy, Tucker Kraft. For center, give me Lucas Van Ness. He's like 6'8" or something. That's perfect for the center position. Detroit Pistons, of course, the Detroit Lions. Give me Jahmyr Gibbs at point guard. Another running back I know, but once again, Jahmyr Gibbs is just too fast. He's too elusive. And with Amon-Ra St. Brown at shooting guard, that again, it just makes too much sense. Usually I'll have tight ends at the power forward position, but in this case, I like Sam Laporta at the small forward, leaving linebacker Jack Campbell to be the power forward and Aiden Hutchinson at center. That's crazy. Aiden Hutchinson is 6'7". That's perfect for protecting the basket and getting those rebounds. If you want me to be honest, I do like the Pistons in this matchup, although it is close, but I just think there's more star power on the Pistons. Next up are the Cleveland Cavaliers, represented by the Cleveland Browns. At point guard, we have Jerry Jeudy. This might be a little controversial. I don't mind if you don't agree with that pick, but I do like Denzel Ward at shooting guard and David Njoku at small forward. And then get this, Myles Garrett at power forward. Once again, taking that LeBron-like position. If you've ever seen Myles Garrett play basketball in high school or in college, there's like a video floating around of his highlights. The dude is a freaking animal on the court. Like, I honestly think that out of all the NFL players in the league right now, Myles Garrett is probably the closest to being ready to play on an NBA team than anyone else. And for the center, again, I don't really care that Jack Conklin is a lineman. I think he just has the size, maybe not necessarily the speed, but definitely the size to play the position. Indiana Pacers are represented by the Indianapolis Colts, and give me Jonathan Taylor at point guard. Jonathan Taylor not only is fast, but he's also really physical, which I think works well for the point guard position. Give me Michael Pittman Jr. at shooting guard. I feel like he'd play that position pretty well. And we all know that Anthony Richardson is a freak of nature and super athletic. He could probably line up anywhere and play good, but I'll put him right in the middle, small forward. I think that's pretty good for him. This is where you're probably gonna laugh. I'm putting Quentin Nelson at power forward. The guy is really talented, so don't sleep on my boy Quentin. And then standing at 6'7", give me DeForest Buckner as the center for this team. Once again, I feel like every position here is pretty close to each other except for power forward. Myles Garrett just gives the Cavs a huge edge over the Pacers. So I have the Cavaliers winning this one and going to the next round. The last team are the Chicago Bulls, of course represented by the Bears. At point guard, I really want to put Caleb Williams here, but I just don't really know if he's that kind of a guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know. But give me DJ Moore. He's actually a lot smaller than I thought he was. I think he's like 5'11". So put him at that point guard spot. I know he's fast. I think he'll do good. At shooting guard, give me Roma Dunze. He's a couple inches taller than DJ Moore. I feel like he fits that position pretty well. At small forward, we're going with the tight end, Cole Kmet. At power forward, give me Montez Sweat. And at center, give me the big man, Matt Pryor. Now, since these are all the teams in the Eastern Conference, I don't have anyone else to pit this team against, but we will go back to the beginning and start pitting the winners against each other until we have just one lineup. So the first matchup of the second round is the New York Knicks versus the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not delusional. I know that in real life, the Knicks own the 76ers, at least right now. But in this scenario, I'm going to have to go with the 76ers. I just think if you go piece by piece, player for player, the 76ers are better everywhere except for maybe Malik Neighbors at shooting guard instead of Devontae Smith. But otherwise, the 76ers clear. Next up are the Washington Wizards versus the Orlando Magic. This is tough again because on one hand, you do have the dynamic trio of Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, and Jaden Daniels. But on the Orlando Magic, Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield, that could go insanely tough. At the end of the day, the selling point for me is that I don't know necessarily that Luke McCaffrey will hold up his end of the bargain, and Zach Ertz is a little on the older side, whereas the Orlando Magic, I just feel like they're a little fresher. So for this round, I'm going to have to go with the Orlando Magic. Next up are the Atlanta Hawks versus the Detroit Pistons. I'm actually not going to spend a whole lot of time here. I think the Atlanta Hawks, their selling point is Drake London, and the selling point for the Pistons is like their entire lineup. Give me the Pistons pretty much all day over the Hawks. And our last matchup of the second round are the Cavaliers versus the Chicago Bulls. And no, I actually don't think this is close. The Cavaliers, they just clear the Chicago Bulls. Like, no one is playing with David Njoku and Myles Garrett. Holy smokes. Yep, I got the Cavaliers moving on to the next round. So next up are the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Orlando Magic in the semifinals. Once again, it is close, but this is where I think that things are going to be much like the Super Bowl and the talent level of the 76ers is just going to be too much. It's going to overwhelm the opposing team. 76ers take the dub here, move on to the finals. Next up is one of the most exciting matchups of the night. We have the Detroit Pistons versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you want me to be honest, I feel like the Detroit Pistons pretty much have the edge everywhere except for the fact that they have Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett just feels like one of those superstars that you have on your team that it doesn't matter how good the supporting cast is, he's just gonna ball out every single night. And sometimes it just takes a superstar on one team to beat a well-rounded team like maybe the Pistons are. Of course, I don't want to ignore Aiden Hutchinson. I know he's a beast in his own right, but I don't know. I just think the Cavaliers are gonna take this one. This one might be the closest of all the matchups so far. If you were to flip a coin randomly to decide which team wins, I honestly wouldn't have a problem with either of them winning. For me, the selling point is Myles Garrett. And last but not least, we have our final matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is where me as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I just have to put my bias aside. I just don't know how they're going to deal with Myles Garrett. Like, that man is a problem. You're obviously not going to put Cooper DeJean on him. I don't think Dallas Goedert is going to be able to do anything against him. Jordan Mailata, I mean, he's big, but Myles Garrett's just big and fast and strong, and plus you have David Njoku, who's nothing to sneeze at. Again, I have to put aside my bias. This is for the video. I'm trying to give you my honest opinion. I do think the Cleveland Cavaliers will take the Eastern Conference trophy back home. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All three of those things really help out. Next week or the week after, hopefully soon, I'll have the Western Conference up, especially if this video does well, if you guys want to see the Western Conference. And also give me more ideas for football/basketball, but really football related content. I know you guys have been giving me so much support. Please keep commenting. Please keep liking these videos. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Also consider subscribing to my main channel, Animal Fries, where I cover a variety of topics like internet trends, YouTube drama, pop culture, etc., etc.